Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast, where we dive into the stories behind everyday things.
Hmm.
And today, we're going to be talking about something you probably take for granted every single day,
Okay.
electric light.
Interesting.
But trust me, the journey from flickering flames to the flick of a switch is a fascinating one.
I bet it is.
Ready to be illuminated?
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about this.
Okay, so before we had electricity, how did people light their world? I mean, I know candles and oil lamps, but I'm sure there's more to the story, right?
Yeah, so imagine a world where nighttime truly meant darkness.
Ooh.
Spooky. Candles and oil lamps, while romantic in a way, were dim, and they required constant attention.
Yeah, and I'm guessing they weren't exactly the safest things to have around.
Right, they posed a serious fire hazard, not to mention all the smoke and soot.
Yeah, I could see how that would put a damper on things, literally. And gas lights, while brighter, weren't exactly a walk in the park either, right?
Exactly. Gas lights required a whole infrastructure of pipes to deliver the gas, and they produced harmful fumes. Not exactly ideal for indoor use.
Definitely not. So the search for a better, safer, brighter way to light the world was on.
It was.
And that's where the spark of electric light comes in.
Ooh, I like that.
I love a good origin story, so tell me, where did it all begin?
Well, it all started with a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
In the late 1700s and early 1800s, a scientist named Alessandro Volta invented the first electric battery.
Ooh, the battery. I know those.
It was called the voltaic pile.
The voltaic pile. What a name.
I know, right?
So this battery, did it directly lead to the light bulb?
Not directly, but it was a crucial step.
Yeah.
The voltaic pile demonstrated that electricity could be generated and stored, and this sparked a wave of experimentation.
Ah, so it literally sparked the idea.
Exactly.
So who picked up that spark and ran with it?
Well, just a few years later, in 1806, an English chemist named Humphrey Davy created the first electric light known as the arc light.
The arc light. What's that?
He basically passed an electric current between two carbon rods, creating a brilliant arc of light.
Wait, so we had arc lights before the light bulb. I never knew that.
It's true.
What were they like?
Imagine a light so bright it could rival the sun.
Whoa.
Arc lights were incredibly powerful, even blinding at times.
That's intense.
They were used in lighthouses and streetlights because of their intensity.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
But I'm guessing they weren't exactly practical for everyday use.
Right, if they're that bright, how could you use them inside?
Yeah, you got it. The carbon rods burned out quickly and they were quite noisy.
Ah, I see. So not exactly ideal for a cozy evening at home.
Not quite, but they paved the way for something more manageable, the incandescent light bulb.
Ah, yes, the iconic light bulb. So who gets the credit for that brilliant invention?
Well, that's where things get a little competitive.
Ooh, tell me more.
In the late 1870s and early 1880s, two brilliant minds were working on developing a commercially viable light bulb.
Okay, who are we talking about?
Joseph Swan in the UK and Thomas Edison in the US.
Wait, so it was a two-man race to light up the world.
You could say that.
Tell me more about these pioneers.
Both Swan and Edison faced the challenge of finding a suitable material for the filament.
The filament, what's that?
That's the part of the bulb that glows when heated.
Ah, okay. So what did they come up with?
Swan experimented with carbonized paper, while Edison famously tested over 6,000 different materials.
Wow, talk about dedication. So who crossed the finish line first?
Well, they both achieved success around the same time, each creating their own version of the incandescent bulb.
So it was a tie.
You could say that, and get this, they eventually merged their companies, forming the Edison and Swan Electric Light Company.
Wait, so the rivals became partners. That's an interesting twist.
It is.
It seems competition can sometimes lead to collaboration. But hold on a second. Didn't someone create a light bulb even earlier?
You're right. There was an English scientist, Warren de la Rue, who actually created a platinum filament bulb back in 1840.
So he was ahead of his time. Why didn't his bulb take off?
Well, platinum was and still is a very expensive metal. De la Rue's bulb simply wasn't practical for mass production or affordable for the average person.
That makes sense. So
Yeah.
Swan and Edison's bulbs, with their more affordable materials, really revolutionized lighting. I bet the world was quickly illuminated.
It was.
But I have to ask before we move on, weren't there any other interesting inventors or inventions in the early days of electric light?
Yeah, you're right, there were. There was William Greener, who in 1846 received a patent for an improved electric lamp design.
So the story of the light bulb is really a story of many minds building upon each other's work.
Exactly.
It's amazing how innovation often happens in these incremental steps. But before we delve deeper into the different types of light bulbs and their impact, let's take a moment to remind you, our listeners, to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other enlightening episodes of Tell Me More.
Yes, definitely get that.
We've got a lot more stories to illuminate, so stay tuned. Okay, so back to the early 20th century. While incandescent bulbs were becoming increasingly popular, another significant advancement was on the horizon.
It was.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm all ears. What was the next breakthrough in the world of electric light?
Enter William D. Coolidge, an American physicist who in 1912 developed a game-changing innovation,
Ooh, I love game changers. What did he do?
the tungsten filament.
Tungsten. I've heard of that. Isn't it a very strong metal?
Exactly. Tungsten has a very high melting point, which means it can withstand incredibly high temperatures.
Okay.
This made it ideal for use in light bulb filaments, significantly improving their lifespan and efficiency.
So thanks to Coolidge, light bulbs became more durable and less likely to burn out. That must have been a welcome change for everyone. But were there any other innovations happening alongside the tungsten filament? Did anyone dare to challenge the dominance of the incandescent bulb?
Absolutely. In fact, just a few years earlier in 1910, a French engineer and chemist named Georges Claude introduced something completely different than neon light.
Neon lights. Now that's something that really catches the eye. Tell me more about how they work and how they came to be.
Well, Claude was fascinated by the colorful glow produced when an electric current was passed through certain gases.
Right.
He experimented with neon gas, which produced a vibrant reddish-orange light, and voila, the neon light was born.
So instead of a heated filament, neon lights use glowing gas to create light. That's really cool.
It is.
And they quickly became a sensation used for everything from advertising signs to artistic displays. Think of those iconic neon signs on the Las Vegas Strip. They're a testament to Claude's invention. But neon wasn't the only gas being experimented with.
Right.
Oh, what other glowing gases were out there?
Around the same time in 1934, an American physicist named Arthur Compton was researching something called fluorescent lighting.
Fluorescent lights.
Yeah,
Those long tubes we often see in offices and schools. They
exactly.
have a completely different look and feel than incandescent bulbs.
They do fluorescent lights work by using electricity to excite mercury vapor inside a glass tube.
Mercury vapor.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit dangerous.
Well, it's contained within the tube, so it's safe when used properly. The mercury vapor emits ultraviolet light, which we can't see, but the inside of the tube is coated with a special powder called phosphor.
Phosphor, what's that?
Phosphor is a material that absorbs ultraviolet light and re-emits it as visible light.
So it's like a two-step process.
Right.
The mercury vapor creates invisible UV light, and the phosphor converts it into the light we see.
Exactly.
That's pretty ingenious. And I've heard fluorescent lights are more energy efficient than incandescent bulbs, right?
Yes, they are. For the same amount of light, a fluorescent bulb uses significantly less energy than an incandescent bulb.
So fluorescent lights offered a more efficient alternative to incandescent bulbs, especially for larger spaces. But if I remember correctly, they also have some drawbacks.
That's right. While they are more energy efficient, they do contain small amounts of mercury, which requires careful disposal to avoid environmental contamination.
That's an important point to keep in mind. So we've got incandescent bulbs, neon lights, and fluorescent lights. It seems like the world of electric light was really starting to diversify. But there's one more major player we need to talk about, right?
You're thinking of the LED, or light-emitting diode, which emerged in the 1960s.
Ah, yes, LEDs. They're everywhere these days, from our phone screens to traffic lights. They seem to be the future of lighting.
They certainly are. LEDs are incredibly energy efficient, have a long lifespan, and come in a wide range of colors and sizes. They work on a completely different principle than the other types of lights we've discussed.
So how do these tiny wonders work?
LEDs are based on semiconductors, which are materials that can control the flow of electricity in very specific ways.
Semiconductors. That sounds a bit complicated.
It is, but let me try to simplify it. When an electric current passes through an LED, it causes electrons to jump across an energy gap within the semiconductor material.
Electrons jumping across an energy gap. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture that.
Think of it like this. Imagine a staircase with a few steps. The electrons are like tiny balls that need to climb the stairs. When electricity flows through the LED, it gives the electrons the energy to jump up to a higher step.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So what happens when the electrons jump up the stairs?
When they jump, they release energy in the form of light.
So it's like the electrons are excited about climbing the stairs, and they show their excitement by emitting light.
Ah.
That's a great analogy.
Oh.
And because LEDs are so efficient, they don't waste much energy as heat.
Right, exactly. That's one of their biggest advantages. They're cool to the touch, unlike incandescent bulbs that can get extremely hot. But let's not forget about one more fascinating type of electric light that played a crucial role in the early days, even before incandescent bulbs became widespread.
Oh, what else is there?
Yeah.
I thought we had covered all the major players.
We've talked about arc lights, incandescent bulbs, neon lights, fluorescent lights, and LEDs, but there's one more that deserves a mention, the carbon arc light.
Carbon arc light. I haven't heard of that one.
It was actually the first widely used type of electric light, even before incandescent bulbs took over. It works by creating an electric arc between two carbon rods.
So it's similar to Humphrey Davy's early arc light, but with carbon rods instead of metal.
Exactly. The carbon arc light produced an intensely bright light and was used in applications like movie projectors and searchlights.
Wow, that's pretty bright. But I imagine it had some drawbacks as well, right?
Yes, the carbon rods burned out quickly, requiring frequent replacement, and they were quite noisy.
I can see why they were eventually replaced by other types of lights. But it's fascinating to see how the quest for electric light led to so many different inventions and innovations.
It really is.
It's quite a story.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great place to stop for now.
Okay.
We'll pick up the story of electric light in our next episode.
Sounds good.
But in the meantime, keep those curiosity bulbs burning bright.
I will.
Thanks for listening to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast.
See you next time.
Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast, where we're illuminating the fascinating story of electric light. Before the break, we explored the evolution of light bulbs, from the first arc light to the rise of the energy-efficient LED.
And now it's time to shift our focus to the impact of electric light on society, culture, and even our health. It's a story that goes far beyond simply seeing in the dark.
I'm really curious to delve deeper into that. I mean, we all know that electric light is essential, but I've never really thought about how it's shaped the world around us.
Well, one of the most profound impacts has been on our perception of time. Before electric light, the setting of the sun marked the end of the day for most people. But with electric light, nighttime became an extension of the day full of possibilities.
It's like we gained control over the night instead of it controlling us.
Yeah.
I bet that had a huge impact on productivity and work schedules.
Absolutely. Factories could operate around the clock, stores could stay open later, and people could work or study well into the night.
And I imagine it also had a big impact on social life. People could gather for events and entertainment after dark without having to worry about candles burning out or gas lights flickering.
Exactly. Think about the rise of theaters, cinemas, and nightclubs. They all thrived because of electric light.
It's amazing to think how something as simple as electric light could have such a ripple effect across so many different aspects of society. But it's not just about productivity and social life, right? Didn't you mention that electric light has also influenced art and culture?
It has in profound ways. For example, in the realm of visual arts, electric light revolutionized painting. Artists were no longer limited to painting outdoors or relying on dim studio lighting. They could create and capture images with a new level of detail and vibrancy.
And I imagine it also had a huge impact on photography, right? Before electric light, photography was limited to daylight hours. But with artificial light sources, photographers could experiment with different lighting techniques and capture images in low-light conditions.
Precisely. The development of flash photography and studio lighting opened up a whole new world of possibilities for photographers. And let's not forget about the impact on filmmaking. Electric light was essential for the development of motion pictures, allowing filmmakers to create and capture moving images both indoors and outdoors, regardless of the time of day.
It's like electric light gave birth to an entirely new art form.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But it wasn't just about creating art, right? Didn't it also change the way people experienced art?
Absolutely. Museums and art galleries could stay open later, allowing more people to experience art in a whole new light, literally. And let's not forget about the impact on architecture. Architects began to design buildings with larger windows and more open spaces, knowing that they could be well lit even on cloudy days or at night.
That makes sense. Before, electric light buildings were often designed to maximize natural light, which limited architectural possibilities. Electric light gave architects more freedom to create innovative and aesthetically pleasing designs.
And it wasn't just about aesthetics. Electric light also played a role in improving safety and security. Streetlights illuminated dark alleys and streets, making cities safer for pedestrians and reducing crime rates. Homes and businesses became more secure with the addition of electric lighting, deterring burglars and other unwanted visitors.
It seems like electric light had a positive impact on almost every aspect of life. But didn't you mention something about potential downsides, particularly related to health?
You're right. While electric light has brought countless benefits, it's also important to be aware of its potential effects on our health, especially in terms of our sleep-wake cycles.
Yes, I've heard about that. Something about blue light and melatonin production.
Exactly. Exposure to light, particularly blue light emitted from electronic devices and some types of artificial lighting, can suppress the production of melatonin, a hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycle.
So too much exposure to electric light, especially at night, can disrupt our natural sleep patterns and potentially lead to sleep problems and other health issues.
That's right. It's important to be mindful of our exposure to light, especially in the hours before bedtime. Dimming the lights using warmer colored light bulbs and limiting screen time in the evening can help to promote better sleep.
It's a good reminder that even something as seemingly beneficial as electric light can have unintended consequences. But on the flip side, haven't there also been studies showing that light therapy can be beneficial for certain health conditions?
Absolutely. Light therapy using specific wavelengths of light has been shown to be effective in treating conditions like seasonal affective disorder, SAD, a type of depression that's linked to changes in the amount of natural daylight. It's also used to treat neonatal jaundice, a condition in newborns that causes yellowing of the skin and eyes.
So it's all about finding the right balance and understanding how different types of light can affect our bodies and minds.
Exactly. And I think that brings us to a fascinating aspect of electric light that we haven't touched on yet. It's symbolism and cultural significance.
Yeah, yes. I've always been intrigued by the symbolism of light. It often represents knowledge, hope, and enlightenment.
And in many cultures, light is associated with spirituality and the divine. Think about the use of candles in religious ceremonies, or the imagery of a halo surrounding a holy figure. Electric light has, in a way, amplified these symbolic meanings.
It's like electric light has illuminated not just our physical world, but also our imaginations and our aspirations. Think about that classic image of a light bulb appearing above someone's head to signify a sudden idea or inspiration.
It's a universal symbol of creativity and innovation, and it's a testament to the power of electric light to spark new ideas and illuminate the path forward. And it all started with that first spark of discovery with Alessandro Volta's voltaic pile.
It's amazing to think about the long and winding journey that brought us from that first spark to the dazzling world of electric light we inhabit today. But before we wrap up this illuminating episode, do you have any final thoughts or insights you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think the most important takeaway is that electric light is more than just a utility. It's a transformative force that has shaped our world in countless ways, for better and for worse. It's a reminder that even the most seemingly mundane things can have profound stories behind them.
Well said. And on that note, we want to thank you all for joining us on this enlightening journey. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of electric light.
And remember, there's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to illuminate.
Until next time, keep those curiosity bulbs burning bright. Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast, where we're shining a light on the fascinating story of electric light.
Still shining.
It's amazing to think how something we take for granted has such a rich history and a profound impact on our lives.
It really is.
Before the break, we were discussing the potential downsides of electric light, particularly its effect on our sleep-wake cycles due to blue light exposure. It's a good reminder that even advancements come with trade-offs.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of responsibility, I'm curious about the environmental impact of electric light. We talked about the energy efficiency of different types of bulbs, but what about the resources needed to produce them and their disposal?
That's a great question. The environmental impact of electric light is a complex issue. While energy efficiency is a key factor, we also need to consider the materials used in production manufacturing processes and end-of-life disposal.
So it's not just about switching to LEDs, it's about considering the entire life cycle of a light bulb. What have our sources said about efforts to make lighting more sustainable?
Well, there's been a lot of progress in developing more eco-friendly lighting solutions.
Like what?
For example, some manufacturers are using recycled materials in their bulbs, and there are initiatives to improve recycling rates for old bulbs.
That's encouraging to hear. It seems like the lighting industry is making strides towards sustainability, just like many other industries are trying to reduce their environmental footprint.
Right, and as consumers, we can also play a role.
How so?
By choosing energy-efficient bulbs, disposing of old bulbs properly, and just being mindful of our overall energy consumption.
It's a collective effort, just like the development of electric light itself, which involved countless individuals, innovations, and collaborations over centuries.
Speaking of collaborations, I came across a fascinating fact while researching for this episode.
Okay, I'll listen.
Did you know that in the early days of electric lighting, there was a fierce rivalry between two inventors, Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla?
Oh yeah, I've heard of Tesla. He was a brilliant inventor, known for his work with alternating current, AC electricity.
Wow.
Wasn't Edison a proponent of direct current, DC?
Exactly. They had very different visions for the future of electricity. Edison championed DC, while Tesla believed AC was superior.
So it was a battle of ideas, a clash of titans in the world of electricity.
You could say that.
What happened? Who won?
Well, it wasn't really about winning or losing. In the end, both AC and DC have their advantages and applications.
Oh, I see.
AC is more efficient for long-distance transmission, which is why it's used for power grids today. DC, on the other hand, is better for certain applications like electronics and batteries.
So it's not always about one technology replacing another. Sometimes it's about finding the right tool for the job. And in the case of electric light, we've seen a remarkable evolution of technologies, each building upon the discoveries and innovations of those who came before.
And that journey of innovation continues today. Researchers are constantly exploring new materials, designs, and applications for electric light. Who knows what the future holds? Maybe we'll have light bulbs that can change color on demand or lighting systems that can adapt to our circadian rhythms.
The possibilities are endless. And just like electric light illuminated the darkness, it seems to have illuminated a path of continuous innovation and progress. But as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question. We've talked about the many ways electric light has shaped our world. But what about the ways it has shaped us? How has living in a world illuminated by electric light changed the way we think, feel, and interact with the world around us?
That's a great question. It's definitely something to think about.
And on that note, we want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this enlightening journey through the history and impact of electric light. We hope you've gained a new appreciation for this seemingly ordinary, yet truly extraordinary invention.
And as always, keep those curiosity bulbs burning bright.
Thanks for listening to Tell Me More Stories Told As podcast. We'll see you next time, ready to dive into another fascinating story behind the everyday things we often take for granted.